Welcome to the Collide Kids podcast, hosted by Christen Clark. This is a show for kids and families. You are going to meet new people and have fun while you listen. Let's do it!
Hey y'all, welcome to the Collide Kids podcast. I'm your host, Christen Clark. I am so glad you're listening today. Like those cute kids said in the intro, those are my kids, by the way. The Collide Kids podcast is a show for kids and families where we learn together how life and faith collide. If you are new to listening to the Collide Kids podcast, welcome. I am so glad you're checking this out today. Be sure to hang out until the very end where we have the kids only segment. That's where kids get to be on the podcast. Well, if you're listening right now on Apple podcast app, I'd love it if you could give me a quick rating and review. If you have a minute, it would just mean so much. I got a review from Bible Nat. I bet she loves the Bible. It says, finally, a podcast the whole family can listen to. Christen keeps it fun and engaging without watering down important truths. Thank you so much for sharing that, Bible Nat. That's so great. Hey, if you would like to leave a review or a rating, that would just help me so much. It actually does help people find out about the show. So if you can do that, I would so appreciate it. It's really cool because this podcast is actually distributed through Anchor on 8 different platforms. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google, Anchor, Overcast, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, and Breaker. So whatever podcast app you're listening to right now, thank you for tuning in. That's awesome. Well, my special guest today is author and illustrator Sarah Jean Collins. She is a graphic designer from Bradenton, Florida. She got a history degree from Samford University and then decided to get a graphic design degree from State College of Florida years later. She enjoys writing and illustrating books that both kids and their parents can enjoy. She and her husband Tim have been married since 2008 and they have 2 children. I am so excited for you to hear her story today about being an illustrator and an author and all the things that God has shown her through this. So here is my conversation with Sarah Jean Collins. Sarah Jean Collins, thank you so much for being on the Collide Kids podcast today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get to know you better today. Will you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes, my name's Sarah Jean Collins, and I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a homeschool mom, and I'm a graphic designer. And I wrote a series of kids' books called the God Made series. And I illustrated them too. I should add that.
That's awesome. So you wrote them and you illustrated them.
I did, yes.
That is really cool. And how many books have you written?
Right now I have 3.
Okay.
So,
that's
yes,
a lot. That's good.
Thanks.
Well, this is great. So, okay, I'm really excited to talk to you about being an author and an illustrator and all that fun stuff. But this is a show, like I said, for kids and families. So we always like to start out with something fun. So do you have maybe a joke or a funny impression or something you want to share with us today?
I do have a couple of jokes.
Okay.
The first one's actually a riddle. So what can go up a chimney down, but not down a chimney up?
I don't know.
An umbrella.
True.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay, I have one more.
Okay.
What is worse than finding a worm in your apple?
I don't really know that there's anything worse than finding a worm in your apple.
I didn't either, but the answer is half a worm in your apple.
That is worse to find half a worm.
Much worse.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, gross. That's awesome. Okay, so those were great jokes. I love that. Okay. So tell us about how you got started as a graphic designer. Like, was that something you were interested in when you were younger?
You know, when I was growing up, my mom is actually an artist. She went to college and majored in art education, and she has always been, I guess, the person who's taught me the most about art. We always painted when I was growing up and did all kinds of art projects. And I always wanted to do something art related. I kind of just always, I mean, I don't know. I just appreciated art. I loved to do it. I was always doing crafts and that kind of thing at home on my own. And when I got to college, I don't know, they always say starving artist, that kind of thing, that phrase. And so I never really thought about going into art as a major. And so I was a history major in college, and I love history, so I don't regret it at all whatsoever. So I studied history, and when I got out of college, I ended up working for a nonprofit, a ministry nonprofit organization, and my role was events coordinator, and but I would always do they'd have me do a bunch of other random things, I guess, in addition to events coordinator. But one thing I love to do, I guess when I was doing the events, and other things, I noticed I loved making the invitations. And if I had to do a flyer, I loved to do the flyers. And like, I would spend so long working on these little projects that shouldn't have taken that long, but I just like really enjoyed it. And I was only working in like Microsoft Word too. So I didn't have all the, fancy graphic design software at that point, but I just knew I really enjoyed it. And then I also kind of, I still loved art and kind of was thinking, I really want to do something art related, but I just didn't really know what to do. And so I looked into graphic design. Honestly, when I was even in college, I didn't even really know what graphic design was at that point. And I heard about people being graphic design majors. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. But so then when I had been out of college a few years, and I had looked into different programs and how to go about doing this. And I ended up I enrolled at my community college in town, and I started classes there. So that's kind of how I got into it.
That's awesome. And then you decided to write some books. Like was that the next step?
Well, I got an associate's degree at my community college, which was only supposed to take 2 years, but because I was working, and then I had my daughter in the meantime, while I was in school, and it ended up taking me 5 years to get my associate's degree. And, but while I was in school, I guess it was towards the end of, this time that I was back in school, my daughter was about 18 months, or maybe even younger. I can't remember the exact time frame, but I started, you read to your baby, and just kind of, I don't know. I kind of realized, I'd read her these books that rhymed, and she was really young, but she was able to kind of not really memorize, but kind of memorize the stories. Yeah, and she could say the last word of, each line of a book that rhymed. And so I really wanted to, because I would read her like Goodnight Moon, I think is Goodnight Moon one, the Madeline books that rhymed. Sure. And noticed this about her. And I wanted to find a book that was a Bible story that was kind of similar, because I just kind of felt, I don't know if I haven't read every single kid's book out there, but I had a hard time finding a book that was a Bible story for that age group, because I felt like a lot of them were either very babyish or they were too advanced for that age. And then also too, I feel like it kind of just underestimates kids' ability to really absorb a story or, recall stories that they're learning. And I just wanted her to learn, I don't know. I just didn't see it out there. And so I thought about it for a really long time, maybe over a year. And I thought, I think I could do it. I think I could write a short book that's a Bible story that rhymes. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. What do I have to lose? It's not going to take that, I'm not going to lose anything by just doing it. So I wrote it, and I decided to choose the creation story in Genesis. Was obviously seemed like a logical place to start. So
at the beginning, yeah.
Yes. So I kind of, read through the story. I paraphrased the story through rhyme, and I so I wrote it. And then the fun part for me was the illustrations. And so I just got to work on illustrations. It took me about a month, and it was like all I did for a month was just work on this little book. And I had really no idea what was going to come of it. I just had the idea to do it. And, I really wasn't thinking long-term about it at all. So that's kind of how I got into it.
That's amazing. And so then did you like send it to different people or share it just with your friends?
Well, I did. I actually just found it the other day. I went to Staples. I had it printed, and I ended up, I actually do have a friend who's a book agent. And I shared it with him, and he looked over it and thought, I think I'll, take it and see what we can do. So I gave him my flash drive, and I kind of just was thinking, who knows what's going to happen? Like, I had no expectations at all. Cause the thought of having a book published was really not something I ever anticipated for myself or expected at all. So I had no expectations. And then, he took all my stuff. I had to write a book proposal and that kind of thing to share with publishers. And he sent it to a bunch of different publishers, and he would kind of fill me in every now and then, like how it was doing. And he, a lot of times, like every time, I guess it would be, I guess there's several phases. It goes through like different departments, have to look over it. And it would always be like, it would make it through a few phases or however many phases. And then somebody would say, no, like the feedback I got was, it was my illustrations. Cause the illustrations are a little bit, I don't know, I guess the style is a little different than a lot of kids' Bible stories. They're kind of more, a lot of geometric shapes, and they're a little more, I don't know. I just really love kind of that more modern look, I guess. And so that's the thing that the people who said no, that's what they didn't like about it. And so that's what they would say no to.
How did that make you feel when you got that feedback?
I feel like early on when I decided to do graphic design, I feel like you kind of have to make up your mind that you're not going to take it personally. If people give you negative feedback, even though it feels personal because it's your creation, it's your artwork, I feel like you just kind of have to choose to not take it personally. And that's not always easy, but, and also too, I felt like when I was doing the book, or getting feedback from publishers, I kind of was glad that they had said no, because for me, like, the thing I loved the most about it was the illustrations. And I kind of felt like if they didn't appreciate it, or they didn't feel like it had potential, then I didn't really want it to be with those publishers,
Sure. Yeah.
What I mean?
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I kind of almost saw it as like, okay, that's fine. Like, I don't want it to be with a publisher that's not going to really like it. And so I guess more time went by. It was almost a year actually. And I didn't know, like I said, I had no expectations. I didn't know how long it would take or if it would happen at all. And then it eventually got to a publisher called Tyndale, and they gave me a book deal. And the thing that Tyndale's they're so great. The people there are so great. And they really like my illustrations. So I feel like it was just a huge blessing that it ended up there. So
yeah. And you kind of got what you prayed for, because you got a publisher that appreciated both the story and the need for the book, and also the illustrations, and I've seen the book, and the illustrations are very cool. Like, it's like you said, it's more geometric shapes and like some interesting shading and different things like that. So I think that's really neat that they got it right.
Yes, and you're right. It was definitely an answer to prayer. So that ended up with a publisher like that.
Yeah, for sure. So then you wrote 2 more books. Are they like exactly the same as the first one?
No, so the first one is called God Made the World, and that's the creation story. And then Tyndale, I got a book deal for 2 more books, and they wanted it to be a series talking about God's creation. So the next one I did was God Made the Ocean, and the one after that is called God Made the Rainforest. And it just kind of it just talks about different animals and sea creatures that God created. And each one of them each book has a message kind of just about God's purpose and creating us with different qualities or different, I don't know, just different aspects of God's creation. And so
That's
those
awesome.
are the other two.
Yeah. So tell me, like, what is it that you like the most about being an author and an illustrator?
I mean, honestly, I think it's just really fun. I think to be able to create art and to get to share it with other kids. I feel like I did write the book, with my daughter in mind at that age. She's now almost 8 years old, which is so crazy. It's been that long, but I think it has just been really, really awesome to see other kids enjoy the books and other families, and just get to share about God's creation with other families and other children. So
yeah, I think that's amazing when you think it's something that's so personal and then other people end up enjoying it. That's awesome.
Yes, I know it is. It has been really cool and still like so unbelievable.
Yeah,
so.
I'm sure. So, okay. So then tell me this, what is it that you don't like about being an author and illustrator? Is there anything you don't like?
I don't know if there's anything I don't like. I think so. Recently this happened to me. I was doing a logo for somebody, and I didn't get a ton of direction from the person who I was doing it for. And I made this logo, and I thought it was just so cool. I loved it. I, put a lot of, I don't know, not a ton of work, but I put work into it. And I just thought, this is just such a great idea. I love the way it came out. And the person did not like it. And I like what we were saying before, I didn't really take it personally. I was just really disappointed because I wanted to see it, kind of come full circle and be printed on things and that kind of thing. And so that kind of it's just more disappointing, I guess, when they're not going to use what you really want
put together.
Yes.
Do you save those? Like, all right, I'll give this logo to someone else. Like I can reuse it.
Yes. And that's one thing that I feel like is really good with graphic design is you can save all your stuff. Like there's this, I did a t-shirt a long time ago for a friend, and I used like a flamingo, and I've used that flamingo on like a bunch of different things.
It's a new level of recycling.
Yes, exactly. So
that's awesome. Well, that's good. That's good that you can just take it and reuse it. And
yes. So yes, I've saved the logo. My husband was like, you just need to save it and give it to somebody else or use it for something else because I don't know.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So what is it about your faith in God that prompts you to write books about God or to, use your faith in different ways with graphic design? We'll be right back after this. Raising kids in the digital age isn't easy, but Bark Technology makes products that help parents keep their kids safe online and in real life. They have an app, a phone, and a home device that lets families set parental controls on their internet-connected devices. I love the app because it helps us manage screen time and blocks websites and apps we want our kids to avoid. It also sends alerts and gives us the ability to monitor texts and social media and even track your child's location. Visit bark.us to learn more about how you can keep your kids safe online. Use the code COLLIDEKIDS to get 15% off your subscription of the Bark app.
I mean, I feel like for me, I'm not a super verbal person. I just have, I don't know, communicating. I'm just not great communicating verbally. And so I do think that, there's different ways we can communicate and share God's word.
Yeah.
And, God has just given us different gifts and abilities to share about him. And I think maybe graphic design and art maybe is that way for me. I don't know. Cause I just remember, I don't know. That's kind of, I guess what I think. I think that that's really what maybe the ability God's given me to,
right.
to share about him because I'm not great at talking and communicating.
Well, you're doing great right
Or
now.
I'm really shy. I'm really shy, and I just feel like maybe just it is maybe I don't know. It just comes more naturally to me.
Yeah,
I guess.
I love that. I think there's a lot of people that are not extroverts and they need other ways to share. I love that you said that there's other ways that people that are shy or people that are not very verbal or good with words have ways of sharing God's love and sharing their faith. So you use it with graphic design. So that's a really neat way. Have you always been shy? Like, have you always been like,
Oh yeah, that's
shy
what. Yes, I have. And I was even going to share that about growing up. I feel like when I was a kid, I was always so shy and reserved, and I feel like I still am. I think I'm obviously, matured a little, and I'm not as shy, and it's easier for me to to meet new people, and it's not really as big of a thing. But I do. Yes, I've always been a shy person.
yeah.
So.
What advice would you give to a kid who is shy or someone who struggles with like meeting new people? Like how is it that you learned to overcome it?
I think just over time, I do think that you just get more confident, and you just get more comfortable with yourself. I think it kind of just comes with age a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think knowing that you're not always going to be this shy little kid or the shy teenager. You're gonna one day it's going to be different, and you're not gonna be like so shy forever.
Yeah.
I do think just kind of being more confident in who God made you to be, and embracing those maybe qualities about yourself that you don't necessarily think are cool or great, that's how God made you. So
Yeah,
I think just becoming more confident in that, and who God made you to be, I think that will definitely help shy people.
absolutely. I think
Anybody.
yeah, for anybody. Like I feel like, I mean, I'm an extrovert for sure, but I feel like that too, like I feel like there's just moments where I have to just remember who I am, that I'm a child of God. And you know what? Sometimes you have to take a risk. Sometimes you have to be brave for a minute, even if it's just for a minute,
Mm-hmm,
and get through that moment. And so I think that's good advice for anybody. Well, so what are you doing right now? Are you writing any books right now, or do you have like any graphic design things you could share with us?
I would love to do more books. I'm working on one. I haven't heard much. I don't know what's going to happen with it. I think everything going on with COVID and everything is kind of thrown everybody off, obviously.
Right.
But one other thing I'm doing right now, a friend of mine, her name's Lauren Duncan, and she also has a book published through Tyndale. It's called Made to Create, and she and I do a Instagram live show every week. We've kind of started. We were doing it where we do. She is a fine artist, and I'm a graphic artist. So we would do. She would teach a lesson, and I would do it, and then the next week I would teach a lesson, and she would do it. And but now we've started where we're going to do the same project or the same subject matter, and she will do it with art materials, and I'll do it on the iPad.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, so it's been really fun. So that's kind of, if anyone wants to check it out.
Yeah. Is it like just for kids, or is it just for adults?
I think it's, I do think kids can appreciate it. I think adults can appreciate it and do the projects. I think really anybody. So anybody who's wanting to learn more about art and graphic design.
Yeah, that's awesome. And is this something that you feel like, is this something that you started because of COVID, or did you start this a while back?
The way we kind of got started with it was last summer. Tyndale publishing company that we're both under, they did a virtual summer camp, and they asked Lauren and I to do a project together for the summer camp. And so we did that. And then we just thought, we could just keep doing it. We could keep doing these projects, and it's fun. And we both learn from each other, and hopefully, teach some other people. who are
Yeah, I
interested.
love that. We wanted something fun to kind of tune into that wasn't Netflix, you know?
Right.
So I love that this is available. And I think, like you said, if there's somebody interested in art or graphics or things like that, this is something they can kind of toy around with and figure out if that's something they want to do. So that's so
Yeah,
fun.
definitely. It is super fun.
So tell me, is there like a verse or a story from the Bible that kind of helps you out as you're doing your job or as you're being a parent?
Yes, the verse I go back to the most is definitely 2 Corinthians 12:9. My grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses so that Christ's power may rest on me. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So I say that verse to myself a lot when I'm struggling just with things that um, if I have a lot of anxiety or worry or just things that I feel like I have to do that I'm not capable of doing, or that I know is just going to be really difficult, or just a period of time that is just really a struggle. I always say that verse to myself, especially the part that says, for when I am weak, then I am strong, because, there's a lot of things that I just feel like I'm not capable of doing, or that I'm not gonna do well. And I feel like one of the things I think about a lot is homeschooling. If you're a
Yeah.
homeschool mom, I said this last year was our first year doing it, and I feel like I just said this verse to myself all the time, because I don't feel capable of doing this every day and doing the things that I believe God's called me to do. And because of His grace, He is able to give us strength, and so we're really strong because of Jesus. And so
Absolutely.
I just think that's so cool that we don't have to be these, strong people at all. We can be weak, and we're made strong because of the Lord. So.
Right. And it's in those moments that when we have weakness or when we can't do the thing, first of all, that makes us turn to God, right? Because we recognize that we can't do it. And I think God shows His glory and His power and His strength. So He gets to show off through us. And that's a really cool thing to think about, that God gets to use me to show off to the world and to show His love and His power. So I think that's a great verse.
And I honestly, to bring it back to my books a little bit, I always feel like, especially right after I finished the book, I just thought, I cannot believe I just did this project I can't believe I did it. Cause I feel like I'm so the kind of person who'll start something and I just never finish it, or I lose interest. And the fact that I finished it, that I did it and I finished it, I just knew it was because of the Lord. Like, the Lord helped me to complete it. And then the fact that it even got published, I felt like, obviously I knew if it happened, it was only because of God, because I'm not the kind of person who I ever thought would end up doing something like that. So
yeah, I definitely think that. When I interviewed Megan Taylor a few episodes back, she's also an author, and she said someone told her once, God puts books in the hands of people. So like, if there's someone that needs that book, then He's going to find a way to get that book in their hands. And so,
that's so cool.
yeah. So if you think about it, like, God wanted you to write that book so that someone could read it to their kids, or some child could read that book and learn about the creation story and learn that God made them. So I
know
definitely
it's so, I remember having that realization, something kind of similar at one point, and just thinking like, I cannot believe God had me do this. Like, I'm like, who am I? Like, it's just so cool that the way He uses us to accomplish what He wants to accomplish. So
That's right. And I think too, sometimes we think that we have to do really big things for God, but even just the little things, just the daily obedience, the daily kindness, or showing love and compassion to people, that is still doing amazing things for God. So if you write a book, or if you just wash the dishes, those are both amazing things that God can use in your life and in other people's life.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, this has been so great. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, Sarah Jean. I always like to close out the show by asking my guests to share a memory from when they were a kid. So do you have a memory you want to share with us today?
Oh gosh. I think this time of year, it's springtime, and it just always, this beautiful weather that we're having. I live in Florida. and just the blooms that are happening right now. It just reminds me of when I was a kid, and this was just like, I felt like the best time of year, because we would just be in the pool all the time and just enjoying the beach. And I don't know, I've just been thinking about that a lot lately. It's made me very nostalgic for that time in life when you just don't have a care in the world and you're just in the pool all day. So
Oh, that's fun. I love that, when we would go to the pool in the morning and then we'd come home in the evening for dinner. It was like that. That was our whole day. Yeah.
It's the best.
Do you live near the beach? Like, did you grow up near the beach?
Yes, I'm about 15 minutes from the beach, which is crazy.
I'm very jealous. Oh my goodness.
I feel like it's not right to share that.
Quit bragging.
I know. But that's kind of one of the reasons why I decided to do God Made the Ocean. I feel like it was kind of inspired by where I live.
Yes. So. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I love to go like walking on the beach in the mornings, like when we go on vacation. And I just feel like that's like the best prayer and quiet time I get, is whenever I get to walk on the beach and look at the ocean.
Yes, definitely. I know. It's so amazing.
Yep. And then I always pick up shells, and I have really like curly hair. And so I'll put my hair in a ponytail, and then I'll stick the shells in my hair because it holds it better if I have a pocket.
Gosh. That's really smart. I love
so then
that.
When I get back from my walk, I have to like shake my hair out, let all the shells out.
That is amazing. I'm going to do that next time.
Yeah. It's like a built-in pocket. If you put your hair in a ponytail, you can just have a shell in there. So
that's so genius.
Well, this has been so fun getting to know you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And this is my first podcast, so this has been so great.
And you did great. You did so good.
Oh my gosh. Thanks.
What an honor to be her first podcast interview. That was so fun. And she is someone that considers herself to be shy, and yet she shared today so well, and she uses her gifts with graphic design and art and all these different things to encourage other people. I just love that. And I love when she said that she goes back to that verse in 2 Corinthians, that whenever she feels anxiety or worry, or she's worried she can't do something, and the verse reminds her that God's grace is sufficient. And when we are weak, then we are strong. We're strong not because of us, but because of God. And then later we see the outcome is good, and God gets the glory because we know we couldn't have done that. So that's such a good perspective for a lot of different things. Well, let me just tell you that her books are beautiful. They're so cool. I will have pictures on my social media. So if you want to go check out how neat these books are and how the stories, and it's so interesting, I know you're going to love it. Go check it out wherever you buy books. Also, if your family is into art and drawing, go check out the Made Show she does with her friend Lauren Duncan on Instagram Live. It's a lot of fun. Well, now it's time for the kids only segment. This is the part of the show where you get to be on the podcast. Check this out.
Hi, my name's Charis, and I have a riddle for you. A cowboy rode into town on Friday. He stayed in town for 3 days and rode out on Friday. How is that possible? His horse was named Friday.
Oh, that's a new category, a riddle. We've never had a riddle before. Thanks, Charis. Well, if you would like to be on the podcast, I would love to hear your favorite joke or riddle. If you have a riddle or your favorite Bible verse or something you want to share, you can find all the information about how to send that to me on my social media pages. I'm on Facebook at the Collide Kids Podcast, or on Instagram at Collide Kids Pod. I also have a new website, thecollidekidspodcast.wordpress.com. Be sure to check that out as well. I would also love for you to subscribe and follow this podcast so that new episodes will automatically load each week into whatever podcast app you're using. And give us a rating and review. That actually does help other people find out about the show so they can listen too. Well, I hope today you've been encouraged to think about all the different ways that God has blessed you and given you abilities to help other people, encourage other people, and share your gifts with others. I think that's so important. Well, in case no one has told you today, let me be the first to remind you that God loves you so much. Thanks for listening.
You don't have to go very far looking for bad news, because somehow it just finds you. So finding peace in the chaos can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be because the River mobile app exists. The River is a Christian music radio station dedicated to playing music to help you get through life's toughest moments or life's happiest moments and everywhere in between, and all from artists who love Jesus and are real people just like you. Listening is easy. You can download it wherever you get apps from. Just search 1049 The River or listen online at riverradio.com. And know that The River is proud to partner with the Collide Kids podcast.